So far and away, the most baffling game release from the last like 5 years has been Deathloop. It's a game that makes absolutely no freaking sense, specifically in how it was received. I mean, look at this Metacritic. This doesn't make sense if you've played the game. To put it simply, the game just isn't as good as the reviews made it out to be. Certainly not at launch, but you know what? I don't like being wrong about games. I like to revisit them and see if things have changed, or maybe if I just wasn't being fair originally. So today we're gonna go back. We're actually gonna try Deathloop once again to see if it is as bad as I remember, or if maybe it's way better now that they've had time to patch it and maybe tweak some of the things that I had problems with. Real quick, I want to say a huge thank you to Brilliant for sponsoring this video. Brilliant is the online learning platform that is not just easy to use, but it's fun and effective. Little confession time, I actually sat down to like record footage of me using the Brilliant site. I accidentally lost like 2 hours just working through different lesson plans because it was not just fun, but it was interesting. And I was learning stuff that I can actually apply in my day-to-day life. It was awesome. On brilliant.org's website, you can actually see that they've got a bunch of different courses for you to select. And if we choose one such as probability and statistics that I did the first lesson with just the other day, you can see there's multiple different variations that we would be looking at of the courses within. If we choose statistics fundamentals, we can start this course, and right off the bat, we're running and going and having a great time. How it begins is with basic prompts to gauge your level of knowledge on the subject to begin with, and then they start from basics and work your way up. You know, growth and self-improvement doesn't just happen. You have to take steps and actually work at it. And Brilliant.org makes it easy. They don't just have Brilliant.org, the website, but they also have an app for your phone, which I kid you not, like it's the last app I had to open because I was doing this while I was taking a Oval Office break, if you know what I mean. Like, who needs TikTok when you've got Brilliant, you know? It's fantastic. Check them out today at brilliant.org/Luke Stevens, or just use the links in the video description box below or the pinned comment. Again, I use them all the time. I love this service. It's like one of my favorite sponsorships ever because now I actually have an excuse to talk about it and to use the app. I love it dearly. Check it out. I can't recommend it enough. Again, brilliant.org/Luke Stevens. And I should also note that the first 200 subscribers who sign up with my links get 20% off. Just saying. Be one of those 200. Okay, and with that said, let's jump into it. Join me at the other camera, will you? Hello, good to see you. This is Deathloop. So at the outset of the game, you can choose between breaking the loop or protecting the loop. It's up to you. Basically what it means is that if you are protecting the loop, you play as Julianna, and you are going to hunt down players who are playing as Colt to try to prevent them from completing the objective. But to begin, let's start as Colt and play this out. So you see from here, we have a few different options. We have the morning, which we can wait until noon to cycle through, but this is how the game is basically structured. We have morning, noon, afternoon, and evening, and that's the loop for the game. So every single day will repeat itself with those 4 phases, and as the game progresses, you start with having no idea what you're doing, to at the end of the game having to assassinate a group of people all successfully in the span of 1 day in order to break the death loop. It's a really interesting idea, and you can see we have the 4 major areas. We have the complex, Upton, Fristad Rock, and then Carl's Bay itself. Each are levels which are pretty well put together. You would expect that from Arcane, but they change as the day goes by, of course. So it's different in the evening compared to the morning. In addition to that, we have a list of visionary clues that we can collect. As you can see, I've collected most of them. Yeah, if anybody says that I don't play these games and I just bash them for no reason, you guys don't know what the hell you're talking about. We also have all of these clues that we discover over the course of the game as we explore different levels, find notes, talk to different characters, and you build out these clues to figure out what you should be doing. We also have a loadout that we can build out based on what we are looking for, and these can be equipped with different trinkets here that have certain effect differences to boost damage output, reload speed, capacity of cartridges and ammunition, things like that. So you can really make your loadout however you like. But as I'm going to show you, a couple of these weapons are just downright broken. But maybe not. Maybe they've patched it in the months since this game came out. So let's keep an open mind. Let's see. It should also be noted that some of these items can be lost if you don't infuse your gear with residuum. It's something that you will learn very, very quickly when you start playing the game. But for now, let's just use the loadout that I have set up and just go crazy. Ready? Explore. We'll hold down square. Let's do it. I will say it's actually a little difficult to record audio for this game because Julianna, when she speaks to you through the radio, speaks through the PlayStation 5 controller speaker, which is kind of cool when you're playing the game, but it's something I didn't even think of when I sat down to record this video. Like, oh, you won't really be able to hear Julianna unless I hold the controller up to the microphone. So the art style alone, I think, is worth praising. I'm not just gonna sit here and bash. The art style is really cool. The way that they communicate things through these signs that are contextual to the world is really, really cool. I think it's a pretty game and it's got a very unique look. You see, I've got 3 different weapons that I can choose from. I have this shotgun, which I'm going to show you in a second. It's absolutely broken. I've got this pistol, which is also quite useful and I would argue kind of broken. And then I have a sniper rifle, which while it doesn't have much capacity, deals crazy damage and is very, very useful for some of these assassinations that we're gonna be doing. So you see, for movement, we have a double jump, which is serviceable. And then we have these different abilities that you see here on the bottom left. This one is my personal favorite because it's very, very handy. It allows us to effectively teleport to different places around, which is helpful if we're trying to quickly escape somebody that just spotted us. Whack, whack, whack. Escape, roll, escape, teleport, boom. We only almost totally died. And then we scope up. It only took me a full loadout, okay. Reload that, okay. I'm getting used to it again. And before anybody in the comment section complains about the field of view, I'm playing on PlayStation 5. It is what it is. It's not something that you can tweak, so we're just dealing with it. Now, as an action RPG, I actually think that the game isn't bad. I think there's a lot of customization that can be had here, and you can have a lot of fun with it. It's actually pretty impressive. As you can see with this shotgun, it's actually got 2 big discs of cartridges that I can use, but it's also fully automatic, and I've added trinkets that greatly increase its damage output. This thing can actually wipe a Julianna that's invading you almost instantly. Now, one of my biggest frustrations with Deathloop was actually that it's a time loop game, which is great. I really like a lot of these time loop games. 12 minutes was great. I thought it was really quirky, and the incestuous ending at the end was a little surprising, but you know what? It wasn't the worst thing ever. Or other games like The Forgotten City, which I thought was downright fantastic. I think time loop games can be super, super cool when done right. The problem is that I think that this one is not done right at all. You see, one of the keys of time loop games is that you let the player figure things out for themselves. So when they solve the time loop and figure out how to break it apart, it feels satisfying and like they were the ones that figured it out. It's one of the greatest things of video games is that you can feel satisfied in that way. With Deathloop, it holds your hand so much that there's almost no satisfaction to be found in figuring out the time loop at all. Because as you see, there are these quest markers as you explore the level, and they update as you uncover clues like I mentioned before. So as we go through the level and we discover new things that hint at where we should be going, as you see these paths kind of trace out, they will lead you to the next one. So claim the phase upgrade. Okay, I did that. Now it tells me I need to go and swipe Igor's ether slab and use that ability to get even further along the way. And the reason they set this up is so that you can follow through and be like, okay, so I did this, I did that. Okay, now I need to go over here. And if I want to get this slab, I need to go through here and blah, blah, blah. And it tracks all the way through. But the problem is that it just removes all of the interesting elements of the game and it holds your hand the entire way. And for these discoveries and clues, again, it just holds your hand every step of the way. So now, oh, Harriet Morse is over there. I could have learned that through gameplay. I could have learned that that's where she's at and gone and found her and assassinated her that way. But instead, I have to go and like follow quest markers. How did I miss that? Good God almighty. I am having one today. And this was actually one of the funnier things I heard from people that really liked this game, is that they said that you should go into the menus and manually disable elements of the interface so that it doesn't hold your hand as bad. So like for this, they were saying go into the menus and tweak all of this around so that you don't have any of these notifications popping up at all, so that you can go through auto equip weapons on pickup, you can auto switch to the next available weapon, you can change it so you can auto cover lean when you are behind cover, and then you hold down L2, you'll lean up and over it. I do appreciate the head bob stuff, because head bobbing actually makes me pretty motion sick when it's on, so I much prefer this. I like it way more. The aim assist is also stupid strong on console by default, so you'll see I pop up and I'm right on him. Like I don't even have to try. You can turn it off in the menus, but by default it's like stupid powerful. You don't even have to try. I mean, I appreciate it on the one hand because I hate aiming with a controller. I'm a mouse and keyboard player through and through, but still it's like so bad you don't even have to try. So with this, we're in here. I'm going to collect this trinket right there. I'm gonna open that. You see we've got guns that are scattered around if you need stuff, so you can find that if you want to and replace the weapon you're using. But in this case, there's the lady we need to kill, and look how easy this is. I see her. The AI is so stupid, it doesn't even know what to do. So I just like pop her, cap her a couple times, and then I'm done. Like that's it. And that was a lot of people's biggest issue with this game, is that the AI was so dumb that even when they stare at you through glass, they can see you. You just murdered their leader. They don't have the forethought to like prop up the door, grab a grenade, maybe start blasting through it, or open it and start blasting through it, call for reinforcements. They just stand there and don't do anything. Like it's painfully stupid. And at launch, a lot of people were like, it's not actually that stupid. The AI is actually pretty smart. You just have to be able to deal with it properly. And maybe it's just not quite to your liking. It's not the most realistic thing, but it's not the worst ever either. But the first major patch that these developers sent out for this game was to address the AI, because they agreed it was too stupid to be reasonable. It just wasn't working. Now, one of the other things that was a little underwhelming is that Arcane, the developers of this game that did Dishonored and Prey and all those games, they are known for phenomenal level design. And as you can tell as we've been playing through this, there is some quality level design. There's a lot of things for you to climb up and around. It's not bad. Like it really isn't. It's pretty good. Okay, so boom, right there, Julianna's on the hunt. So we're exploring and there's a Julianna out running around. So what that means is that somebody is hunting for us and looking to kill us. If Julianna kills us successfully, they get a big kickback. They get some extra currency that they can use. Not to mention, it's also just kind of fun to think that you're ruining somebody's day. It's just kind of funny. But for us, if we die to Julianna, it will completely set us back. Our progress through the day will be lost. We will have died. And so it can really throw a wrench in your plans, especially if you're on a good run and you're getting a lot done, or if you haven't infused your discovered weapons or trinkets, it can really throw you off. But what I've found is that a lot of the time, the Julianna that spawns in will end up camping at the site of the antenna that you need to hack into in order to dismiss her, which is that thing you see right there. Hack the antenna to unlock the tunnels. Once you've done that, you can send her back, and if she kills you, you won't be totally screwed. You see that though? What she just used was this very shotgun that I'm looking at using on her. Let's see if I can get the jump on her this time. Oh, baby girl, where you go? Where did you go? She might get a jump on me. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I hate this field of view. It's too small. Where'd she go? She's camping. Oh, what a turd. What a turd. What a turd. Where'd she go? So this is why this Julianna thing isn't that fun, because when she's camping, you just sit with a shotgun. I have to hack that thing to send her back and to unlock the tunnels so that I can escape without dying. But she just camps there, and if she has this shotgun, you saw how quickly it killed me. I don't even stand a chance. Where'd she go? Where'd she go? Oh, you see that? Okay, so I died somehow, but I killed her, so I also... That was weird. We died at the exact same time. But look what she's using. She's using the exact same weapon that I'm using because it's the meta and it's totally broken. So if you've played this game for any amount of time and you're going to invade somebody's Julianna, this is the gun you use. And if you're invaded by a Julianna, that's the gun you use because it totally breaks everything. It kills people so quickly, and because of the on-screen effects when you take damage, you can't really see anything the moment you get hit. So there's no interesting tactical fight. It's just try not to be the first one that gets jumped and you'll probably be okay. But if you are jumped, then you're just totally screwed. Now, perhaps I should clarify my position on the game because so far it seems to have been pretty much unanimously and comprehensively negative. I think Deathloop is actually pretty interesting. I think the story is interesting. I really like the process of discovering clues and working my way through. As a time loop game, I think it fails. I think it just holds your hand way too much. But as a more linear action game, it's not half bad. It's actually pretty good. I'd probably give it like an 8 out of 10 all told. At launch, it had so many technical issues for so many people, I'd probably ding it by a full letter grade, so it would go to a 7 out of 10. But that would seem fair to me. And now that it's polished, I'd bring it back up to an 8, and I would say that that's about where it sits. It's pretty good. It's not amazing. It's pretty clunky in some areas. And by nature of the clunky time mechanic, you're going to be going through these levels dozens of times. So you'll get to know them very, very well. But by the end of the game, you'll know them like the back of your hand, and you'll be sprinting the same exact pathway to the same spot to do the same stuff over and over and over again. So there won't be much exploration involved. I mean, you guys saw just there, I spawned over there. I went behind that sign right there. I climbed up this way. I went into the antenna, and that's where Julianna was sitting because 95% of the time, that's where she'll camp for you to come and hack into the antenna. If she's hiding well enough in the shadows, she'll be able to unload with this shotgun on you. You'll be dead. And if you get the jump on her first, then she'll be dead and you can continue playing. It's the same thing over and over and over again. And my frustration is that Arcane, the developers of this game, are known for really crafting interesting worlds that have very high replay value because of the quality level design. But the problem is that Deathloop's mechanics don't actually harbor very interesting replayability. Instead, you'll be going through the same level 50,000 times. You'll get to know them very, very well, but you'll replay the games without actually like replaying the game because the replay happens during the course of your main run, your first playthrough. So you'll get to know these levels really, really well because you're effectively replaying them, but it's not in subsequent run-throughs of the game, if that makes sense. And so instead of having like a really solid game with time loop mechanics that you can also replay because the level design is so good, they kind of blow their load a little too early, and instead you're just kind of done with it by the time the game's over and you don't want to touch it again because you know it too well. But still, altogether, I think I had a good time with the game. I can point at things that I would change or I would tweak, but all told, like, it's not a bad video game. It's pretty good. It's just got a few problems, and I really don't think it deserved the 10 out of 10 scores, which is my bigger problem with it. And to this day, I've been looking and I have yet to find somebody, a regular gamer who's not in games journalism, say that this game deserves a 10 out of 10. Almost everybody I've spoken to gives it a 7 or an 8. Occasionally I'll hear a 9, but not very commonly. And to this day, I really think it's one of the more fascinating examples of gaming journalists being disconnected from the broader public of gamers, because I'm sure they enjoyed the game. I don't think there was like some conspiracy of paid reviews or anything like some people have suggested, but I just think it's a fascinating example of game reviewers just having different standards than regular gamers, I suppose. And I think a lot of it has to do with a phenomenon that I've addressed in previous videos that not many people seem to either be aware of or to think of when they're discussing these types of things. And that is that when a company like IGN, for example, assigns to their staff a review, they're going to assign, say, Deathloop to whoever has done videos and reviews of the previous games in that genre or by that developer. So they'll assign to the Deathloop review arcane fanboys and girls who are familiar with those types of games, and so they'll review it. And if it's even slightly in line with their expectations, they're going to love it. In the same way that like an Elden Ring reviewer probably was never going to give Elden Ring a terrible score. It was always going to do well unless it was an absolute disaster. And I'm not saying they're wrong for doing that. It's the only thing that really makes sense. If you're going to have like somebody review Elden Ring, it makes sense that you put on like a FromSoft veteran instead of assigning it to like somebody who only plays Mario Kart and racing games. You know, it makes sense. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I think it's important to understand that way that they assign things, because that puts into context the Deathloop reviews. For arcane fanboys and girls, it's probably like a 9 out of 10. It's probably a 10 out of 10, possibly, if it's working properly and doesn't have bugs. That's a separate issue. I think you should disqualify a game from a perfect score if it has major technical issues, but that's just me. But for arcade fans, it makes sense that this game would get a great score. But for the broader public, absolutely not. It's clunky. It doesn't make sense. It's lacking in replay value, all of these other issues. But when you see these reviews go up for games, you have to understand that that is a review from the perspective, 95% of the time, of somebody who's a fan of other games, either in that genre or by that developer. So the Saints Row reviews being terrible should really tell you something, because that's a 6 out of 10 from somebody that's played and reviewed all of the other Saints Row games and is familiar with that franchise. And in the same vein, if somebody plays Elden Ring and gives it a 10, that should tell you something, because that's coming from Software fans and reviewers who have covered those previous games by that developer and in that same genre. So they're familiar with what makes a good one and what makes a bad one, at least ideally. But what happens a lot of the time is that we see great scores for a game like Deathloop, and we assume that that applies to everybody, that everybody should consider this a 10 out of 10. And that's just not necessarily the case. Same with Elden Ring. A lot of people played Elden Ring who just simply don't actually like FromSoft style games or the Soulsborne style games of difficult combat, of consequences for mistakes made during combat encounters, tough boss fights, and the like. But they saw the 10 out of 10 reviews, so they figured that applied to everybody, so they paid 60, 70 bucks, they played it, and ended up hating it. And they're like, what the hell happened? I thought this was going to be awesome. It got a 10 from IGN. What am I missing? Why don't I like it? It's supposed to be amazing. But it's simply because it's a 10 for fans of that type of game. Maybe not for you. And in the same vein with Deathloop, it's a 9 or a 10 for fans of these types of games, for fans of arcane games who like this art style that's very, very intense, but also very, very well done and fluid throughout the entire campaign, with solid shooting and stealth mechanics, interesting level design, all of that. It's a solid game for those players. I would insist I still don't think it's a 10 out of 10 just because of the technical issues and the fact that the game holds your hand too much, such that the replay value is basically non-existent. But I've said that 1,000 times, so I'll not bore you with it. And I think it's unfortunate that that really dominated the discussion of this game at launch, because it's pretty solid by itself. I mean, you see this ability, I just tie these two together. So whatever I do to this person happens to the other. Boom. It's great. Here I'll put on screen a clip from the review I did of the game back when it launched, where I actually got to kill like 10, 12 people all at the same time using this one ability. It was super cool. Check it out. You're able to clear out an entire room of enemies without any effort at all. So it really doesn't matter if you know precisely which of these masked figures is your target. But I'll say, having returned to the game for this video and playing through a good chunk of it this afternoon, again for this video, I actually find it kind of fun to be back. I still would make the changes that I've described previously, but I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as I remember it. I think my impression back when I was playing this for the review was that I was just so focused on the technical issues I had. I was so disappointed because my expectations were so high that I just couldn't see around that. But going back to it, I actually am having a pretty good time, I think. And I think that's probably the unfortunate tale of this game, is that for a lot of people, their expectations were very, very high because of the perfect scores. And as a result, they just ended up being disappointed because the game didn't live up to the 10 out of 10 hype. So even as like fans of arcane games, people like me were left like, where is the tremendous, groundbreaking, genre-defining masterpiece? It's like good, but it's not amazing. It's not like a masterpiece, breathtaking, innovative in all these different ways. It's got a ton of issues. It's the same thing as far as I'm concerned as when you have unrealistic hype for a game and it just doesn't live up to it, and so you end up being disappointed. It's like Fallout 4, you know? I was so excited for Fallout 4. I was ready, I was pumped up, but I ended up being disappointed by the game, not because it was horrible, but just because it didn't match my expectations. And by itself, it was a fine game, but yeah, see, the shotgun always wins, baby. The shotgun always wins. But like, Fallout 4 was not a bad game. It just wasn't what people wanted it to be, and so they ended up not liking it and feeling disappointed. And for this, I feel similarly. Like, Deathloop isn't a bad game. It's just not what I felt I was promised through the reviews and from the developer with the time loop mechanic and all of that. And so through almost no fault of the developers, because most of it was the reviews, I ended up feeling underwhelmed, and it tainted my opinion of the game because of it. And it's just unfortunate. It's why there's like a big responsibility on reviewers to get this right, not just because if we recommend something to you and then you buy it and it ends up being terrible, we just caused you to waste your money. So like, that's a big deal that I can't overstate that. Reviewers have a responsibility. So when somebody like carelessly is throwing out 8s and 9s and 10s out of 10, that's a problem. And it's why we need to take this seriously when we recommend or don't recommend something, because not only is it your money on the line, but it's also gonna make or break the future for like a sequel, the potential for the developers to get bonuses. It can have a real world impact for a lot of people. It's not just a random number that we're throwing out. There's an actual impact of what we say. So I want you to know that when I review a game, I'm not just trying to fall in line with the hype or do that. I really take this type of thing seriously as you can take video game journalism and reviews. But I think it's because when it doesn't work and when games journalism and reviews don't work properly, you end up with a situation like Deathloop, where the game can be pretty good, but simply because it doesn't match expectations, because it was overhyped, over-reviewed, given too high of scores for what it was, people end up feeling like their money was wasted, and people buy it who really probably shouldn't have bought it in the first place. But to ask myself the question that I always ask myself when we do these revisit videos, will I play this again? Like, am I gonna see this through and play it again? I'll be real, I think not. I think I need more time because the game holds your hand so much. There's very little mystery involved, so all of these levels are still very, very familiar to me. I still remember my go-to paths for getting places. Like, okay, I got invaded by Julianna while I was on that building, so I come over here, stand on the roof, and sure enough, she comes around the corner. I still remember these levels almost too well to have a good experience again. It would just be going through the motions. So it needs more time, and then I can replay it and have a good time, I think. But It's not terrible. It's just not as good as it was hyped up to be. But let me know what you think of Deathloop in the comment section below. The like button. I want to know what you think of this. Also, I'll let you know that I'm live over on Twitch right now, likely if you're watching the video on the day it launched, or every other Monday, Wednesday, Friday throughout the week. So come over, say hi. I would love to see you and hang out. We play games like this, we chat, we hang out, we look at gaming news and stuff. So it's a good time. Come hang out. I'd love to see you. But with that, I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching. I love you all more than you could possibly know, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.